You're good. So on each of your little pieces of paper in the corner, okay, just in the corner, something small so you know which one it is, you're just going to write, instead of writing out activity, you're just going to put ACT1. And then on the other one, you're going to write ACT2 and then ACT3. So we know which activity that it's coming from, okay? So just in the corner of each one of those three papers. Very good. Okay, so this section, our 1-4 section, which this was the vocab that you did the other day that was copied into the book, okay? And section 1-6, we're going to end up doing that next. We're going to skip, we're going to go from 1-4 to 1-6, okay? Because they're kind of just tied in together, and they're going to be using your compass and your protractor to do these things. So you don't have this vocab yet. We'll do that next. I used to do it all at one time. Okay, so starting on, which this was one of your vocab words, so perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect and form a right angle, which we practiced that yesterday. Remember when we had a line and a point not on a line? And when we did the swinging and drew the line, I said that one line was what to the other. It was one of your vocab words, and you said perpendicular. And perpendicular means it forms a 90-degree angle or a right angle, okay? Parallel lines, if you have two sets of perpendicular lines, then those two lines would be parallel to them, okay? They don't ever cross each other, okay? So if they're both at 90 degrees, if you had something that was at 89 degrees or 91 degrees, it's slanted, that eventually it would end up connecting. So the fact that both of them are the same degrees, then they don't cross each other. They do not intersect, okay? So parallel lines. And we're going to learn the notation for that today. Okay, so we're starting on the first one. So the first one says to fold the paper once to make a line. So it does not matter, don't overthink this, okay? Does not matter where, just fold your paper and make a crease. Okay, now these do not have to, these are notes, okay? These do not have to be perfect. So where you have the crease now with your pencil, just fill it in so we can see it. And again, if you just go lightly just so you can see it, it doesn't, you don't need to get out like a ruler to put it on. Okay, we're good? Okay, so at the end of that line someplace, you're going to label it that italicized L, so it's lowercase cursive L. It looks like that. Good? Okay, so our next step is you're going to draw a point someplace on line L. Anywhere, does not matter where. Draw a point someplace on line L, anywhere on line L. And you're going to label it with a capital A, so point A. Points are capital A. Okay, now I'm going to explain what is up here. Okay, so because this was stretched, so it's not actually a fair representation of what you're going to be creating. Okay, so what you're going to do is when you're folding, and this is why we put the line on there, you're going to fold line L on top of itself. So when you're like folding it over, if you can see the line, okay, that's not on top of itself. It needs to be on top of itself, okay? You're going to fold line L on top of itself, but you don't make a crease until you have the crease actually going through where your A is at. Okay, so her A is like right here. Okay, so I make sure L is on top of itself, and then where A is at, that's where you're going to make the crease. Okay, so I'm going to check the first person in each row, say yes or no if you're right, and I want you to turn around and double check theirs. Okay, so that I don't have to walk around and check everybody. That makes sense. So L, so I'll pretend like my head or the base of my neck is where A is at, okay? And my hands or arms are line L. So I'm folding L on top of itself. So when I see the shadowing, it should be on top of itself. I shouldn't see this, okay? So when it's like this, and then where A is at is now where I'm making the crease. Yes? Yeah, you will. After I say yes, it's okay, so don't draw it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if the person behind you is checked to make sure that you're doing it right, then fill it in with your pencil like we did with L. And this time it's going to be a lowercase m. Okay, so where this crease is at, you're going to put a lowercase m. And how you know it's lowercase if you do the lowercase, well, I guess it's okay. If you're not doing cursive, make sure like uppercase would be pointy, right? And so lowercase would be curved. So if you're not doing that, it would be curved. Okay, we're good? Okay, what do you think we just created? Visually looking at it, yep. Right angles, right? They're perpendicular to each other, okay? So by folding L on top of itself and making a crease, we made a perpendicular segments, okay? They were perpendicular to each other. What was the symbol we used yesterday when we did the compasses? That's parallel. Upside down T, yeah, upside down T. Okay, so somewhere just like where we have your activity thing, we're gonna write line, L is perpendicular to line M. Just somewhere on your paper, just kind of small. Line L is perpendicular to line M. So that's your symbol for perpendicular. An upside down capital T. Okay, we good with that? Okay. I'm kind of jumping through these directions because they ask you what kind of lines are formed and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now what you're going to do is on line L, again, someplace else, just like you did with A, so on line L, not on line M, line L, you're going to put another point someplace, and you're going to label it as capital B. So on line L, someplace, you're going to put a dot and label it as capital B. M is the new line, the lowercase m. Yeah, just at the end, it helps, because if you put someplace else, they might think of the point. You done? Just yes or no. Okay, we good? Okay, you're going to do the exact same thing that you did with A. Okay, so you're going to put L on top of itself, but this time the crease is going to go through B. Exact same thing you just did with A. So L goes on top of itself so that the crease goes through B. And hopefully we don't need to check this one. But so what are we forming again? Oh no, again. Right angle. So line L and the new crease that you're going to have is perpendicular to itself. But then what do we notice about the new line and line M? They're parallel. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill it in, the new crease that you've got, and they want lowercase n, which there's that right here. So lowercase n. Just stick it on the corner. And then I emailed him, so just say this is how it comes. Okay, we good? Okay, so we need to write two more things, and we're done with this one. We can set that one on the side. Okay, so you're going to write line N is perpendicular, so where we wrote the other one. So line N is perpendicular to what? Line what? Yeah. No, this is line N. Line N is perpendicular to L, right? It's perpendicular to line L because that's where the crease went through. L was on top of itself. So line L. Okay, and now the parallel part is line N is parallel, so it kind of looks like absolute value symbols or an 11. okay? 2 slashes that go through it. Okay, so line M is parallel to line what? And M. Okay, so it's going to be the same way when you go to do your compass constructions. They're going to have one line that's drawn, but instead of having just one point like we did yesterday that we made the perpendicular, you're going to have 2 points, okay? So you really aren't creating parallel lines, you're creating 2 perpendicular lines that just wind up being parallel to each other, okay? So you're going to do it twice, but when you go to write your notation, which one's parallel to the other one, you need to add that on there, okay? You're just not actually doing the steps to create parallel lines, you're making 2 perpendicular lines, okay? Just like we did here. Okay, set that one off to the side. And we're going to the activity 2 one. Okay, fold another line L again. Doesn't matter where. Okay, this time you are going to put a point P that is not on line L. So someplace on there, not on line L, you're going to put a dot and put a capital P. Okay, so what we're doing and what you will see, they'll ask you a question that looks like this. Okay, when they ask you what is the shortest distance between 2 points, okay, we talk about it being a straight line, but what kind of straight line? So I'm looking for the shortest distance from this tree, so they labeled it as X, to the fence. If we're going at something that is other than 90 degrees, if we were to measure these, that's going to be a longer distance, right? So what you're finding, they're going to ask you, like in a book assignment, they're going to say, what is the shortest distance? And the shortest distance is a line that forms a what? A right angle, or that is perpendicular to whatever it's going to be, okay? Because that's going to be your shortest distance. Because as soon as you like step out this way and you were to actually measure, it's going to be longer, okay? It's not going to be the same length as that. So that's what we're doing right now, but we're just doing it with folding, okay? We're finding that shortest distance, okay? So just like the last one, what do you think we're going to do with L and point P? Okay, we're folding L on top of itself, and where's the crease going to be at? It goes through P. Okay, so do the exact same thing. You just kind of have to manipulate it because it's not on the line. Okay. And again, this is not a representation of it because I stretched it out. So. Okay, but this time when you go to make your line with your pencil, do not draw the full crease. Okay, just like up here, I just want you to draw the line that comes from P to where your crease is at. Okay, so don't do the full thing. Just where the crease is at, from P to that, wherever your line L is at. Okay, when you fill it in. So L is on top of itself so that the crease goes through P. But don't draw the full line, just that short segment. Okay, so looking at yours, again, not looking at this one, because that's just stretched out on the paper. So looking at yours, it should form a 90-degree angle. Okay, we good? Okay, so the only thing that we are writing on here is we're going to write shortest distance from P to line L is a right angle. Okay, and then another word for right angle could be perpendicular segment. That would mean the same thing. Okay, you're forming a 90-degree angle with whatever you're connecting to. Okay. All right, set that one to the side. Good. Okay. Guess what? Hold the line out. Actually, you should have 4 papers. You should have 4 papers. This is activity 3. Okay, this time you're folding line L, so label it L, and then choose points A and B on your line someplace. Don't do any folding yet. Okay, so this one's different. The creases are not going to go through A and B, okay? Everybody good? Everybody's got their line made and their points A and B. Okay, so what you're doing this time is when you are folding L, okay? When you are folding L, so I'm going to pretend like this is my A and this is my B, okay? It's not in the middle where my neck was at before. So A and B. So I'm folding L on top of itself, but this time when I fold it, A needs to wind up on top of B, okay? So L is on top of itself, just like it was before, but then A needs to wind up on top of B. So you're gonna probably have to shift a little bit. So the creases are not going through A and B. L is on top of itself, so that A and B, the 2 points that you have, is also on top of itself. Then make the crease. Okay, and again, I'm going to check the first people in the row for them to check. So check first behind you. Okay, so you are going to label your new crease that you just made. You can go ahead and fill it in. You're going to label it as M, so lowercase m. Okay, so the crease that you had that went through, go ahead and fill it in as lowercase m. Okay, so this was another vocab word we had yesterday, except when we practiced it, it was the very last activity that we did with angles. Right, so that was angle bisector. What is this one? What did it do? What did line M do to segment AB? It bisected it, right? Okay, so they are also forming what type of angle? A right angle. So we call that the perpendicular bisector, okay? Not angle bisector. Angle bisector just splits an angle in half. Perpendicular bisector means it forms a 90-degree angle, but it splits those segments in half. So if we were to actually like label their intersection point, whatever this is, then we would know that the length of this one and the length of this one would be the same, okay? Which we've had on previous ones. Like I think you had that on the test. You took this section, there was an A and an A here, so that meant that both of them were the same distance, if you can remember that. Okay, so we are going to write, I don't think they have us label anything different. Get that out of the way. Okay, so we are going to write AB, segment AB, is, and let's just abbreviate. Let's go perpendicular bisector line what? Yeah. E is a perpendicular bisector with line M. So it splits it in half and forms a 90 degree. Okay, we're good? Okay, now we're going to activity 4, which is actually on activity 3 for some reason. Okay, now I do not want 90 degree angles this time. Okay, so this is before you do your folding. So what you're going to do is make one fold. So go ahead and do that. Label it line J. Fill it in, label it line J. This is activity 4. Line J. So lowercase j. Okay. We've been practicing, so this is going to be hard for some of you. We've been practicing just holding it on top of itself to make a crease, okay? I don't want you to do that. So what I want you to do is just fold it so that the crease kind of winds up like this, okay? Because it'll make it acute and obtuse angles when you open it up, okay? So just not on top of itself. So when you start to do that, just kind of turn your paper a little bit so it's not on top of itself, and then make a crease. Yes. Check first. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make it so it's not obvious 90 degrees. It needs to look like when you fold it, you've got acute and obtuse angles. Okay, you're going to label the other one as K, lowercase k, LOL. First one's J, second one's K. Okay, so what we're looking at, again, you have like this angle and this angle will be the same, acute or obtuse, okay, and then this one and this one are the same. Okay, this mine was more like 90, that's why I didn't want you to do that. Okay, point P is the intersection point, so it's the vertex of all of those angles, so label that as point P. Okay, I don't care what angle you're choosing, but visually you're thinking of one angle. So I'm thinking of this angle for me. You can choose whatever you want, okay? So on this angle, I have my two lines. I have J, and then this is my line K, which is down, okay? So on this angle that I'm looking at, I'm going to put 2 points on it. And I'm labeling one of them Q, and one of them as R. Okay, we good? Okay, so what we are doing is we are trying to bisect this angle by using folding, okay? The Q and the R don't have anything to do with matching up with themselves, okay? That just helps us to label what we're going to wind up doing, okay? So just ignore those points, okay? So what I'm doing is I want to be able to bisect this. So when I'm folding, it has to go through the vertex, it has to go through P, okay? And then these sides end up matching up with each other, okay? The sides of the angle. So I'm trying to make a fold that goes through the vertex, so you need to know where P is at. And then just because we mark these, it helps you to know like when you're matching them up. The points don't have to match up, it's the rays of the angle to match up. Okay? So I'll come around it. So yours Yeah. Okay, so check the first line. Yes. Check the first line. Oh, yours actually. Yeah, so just make sure you're. This line. Okay, so check the person. Okay, you're gonna label that new crease. Just draw in the angle that you chose. Don't do the whole thing. Don't do, because it'll go through the two angles that are congruent to each other. Okay, so when you're drawing it, when you made your crease, this was a crease that went through two angles. I only want you to fill in the one that you chose. Okay, so fill that one in. We're gonna call that line N. Okay, and then on line N, you are going to label a point S, right? Because we don't already have S in place. Yeah, S. We good? Okay, so writing now, we're just writing on that. Okay, I'm going to say line N, which technically in angles those would be raised, but we just hold it in color line N. Okay, line N is the angle bisector, not perpendicular bisector, because that would mean it formed what? A right angle, which it's not doing that. So don't get those confused. Perpendicular bisector has to do with segments. Okay. Line N is the angle bisector of which angle? QPR. QPR. So QPR, right? Split the angle QPR. Okay, so we have angle QPS is congruent to angle what? SPR. SPR. Ooh. So QP, this one, QPS and SPR. So if they're congruent, we also know that they're what? Equal. But we write that notation different. Remember, the M goes in front of it. So angle QPS is equal to the measure of angle SP. Okay. And we're done with that.